And for those who are joining online and on demand, we're really glad you're with us as well today. I'll be up next week, and I'm looking forward to that, but we got a real treat for you guys this week. A great friend of mine and a great speaker, and you're in good hands this morning. I want to introduce to you guys, he's been here before, but he's currently the director of Soul Care, which is an amazing ministry to our nonprofits, pastors that they do in the area. If you guys know Richard Godhart, former lead pastor, he's a part of Soul Care as well. And he's also former pastor at Crosswinds Church in Livermore. And I just want to welcome up, could you guys give a big, almost embarrassingly thunderous welcome to the wonderful Chris Coli. Let's give it up.
Thanks, buddy. Well, hey, good morning, Santa Cruz Bible Church. It is good to be here with you today, and good to be back, and love coming down here. Hoping to spend more time down here as my oldest daughter just got a job at New Brighton Middle School in Capitola. You know where that is? Any of you actually have kids there or anything like that? And she's a speech language pathologist. It'll be her first real job. And she starts this fall, and so now I have like family in Santa Cruz is the way I think of it. Well, I love that Kate is a songwriter, not just a worship leader and a phenomenal singer, but that she writes songs. And I want to talk this morning about songs and what it is to write songs because, you know, the Psalms, that's what they are. Each one is a song that somebody wrote. Each one has lyrics. But before we get into it, let's just take a minute and talk about some of the greatest songwriters of all time. All right? If I ask you, who are the greatest songwriters of all time, I think I can predict ahead of time what you would say. I'm going to guess that some of you would say John Lennon and Paul McCartney. Is that true? I won't go into a list of Beatles songs that they wrote together, but an amazing catalog, an entire catalog of amazing music. I'm going to guess some of you would say Simon and Garfunkel. Same thing. I don't need to list their songs, but some of you might say Taylor Swift, if I'm going to go a little more current. She's already had 18 top 10 hits at this point in her life. And what is she, like 25 maybe or something like that? Some of you would look to Motown, maybe mention Smokey Robinson. Some of you might say Stevie Wonder, Carole King, Bob Dylan, all names of classic, historic at this point, songwriters. But what I always find fascinating is when I find out a song that has become popular by one artist was actually written by somebody else. Here's what I want to do. I want to show you 3 songs and maybe a bonus, and I want you to turn to the person next to you and see if you can tell them who you think originally wrote it, okay? This should be fun. We'll try this. So, first one, Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You. Maybe you remember this song from the Kevin Costner movie, The Bodyguard. Anybody remember that movie? If you know who wrote this song, turn and tell somebody around you who you think it might have been. I heard somebody say it here in the front row. The correct answer, Dolly Parton wrote this in 1973. She wrote it when she was parting ways with her partner and her mentor. This was her song. Let's do another one, okay? You Really Got Me by Van Halen. This was a hit for them in 1978. I was 6 years old in 1978, and I remember in music class as a 6-year-old, our teacher playing this song and teaching us how to play this on the recorder or something. I have no idea. Do you know who originally wrote this song? Turn and tell somebody next to you if you think you might know. Okay, this song was written by Ray Davis of the Kinks. They wrote and performed this song in 1964, 14 years before Van Halen. Okay, let's do another one. Respect by Aretha Franklin. Everybody knows this song, right? R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to... I won't sing for you, but this is not her song. Well, she made it her song, right? But do you know who wrote it? Go ahead, tell somebody if you think you can guess who might have written this. This song was written and recorded by Otis Redding 2 years earlier, which is just bizarre. Like, if you have time today when you go home, go online and listen to his version. It is totally different than this. And then let me give you one more kind of bonus one. Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Who do you associate that song with? Cyndi Lauper, right? Of course. I mean, that song is iconic. Anybody remember the music video with Captain Lou Albano and this beard and rubber bands hanging off of it? Cyndi yelling at her dad. This is her song, but it's not her song. You know who wrote it? You ready? This dude, Robert Hazard. Did you think it would be a woman? He wrote this song in 1979 on a demo. Well, here is why I bring it all up, and here's why I'm talking about this morning. What I find incredibly interesting is that biblically speaking, you are a songwriter. According to the Bible, you have got a song. The Psalms tell us at least 5 times in 5 different places that God is putting new song in your mouth. The book of Isaiah says the same thing. There's a new song in you, and God has put it there. Whether you're a singer or not, whether you're a musician or not, you have been created with a song inside you that is waiting to get out. Now, do I need to say metaphorically speaking? Some of you, if you're tone deaf, don't take what I'm saying quite so literally, but for metaphorical purposes today, you've got a song. Now, here's a question. If you've got a song in you, what is your song about? You might think that yours is about experiences. You might think it's about your past. Yours is about your relationships. Maybe it's about where you've seen God come through for you, deliver you. Maybe you think your song is a song of regret. Some of the best songs are songs about regret. There are so many things that your song could be about. And then here's another question. What kind of song is it? Like, what kind of music? Is yours a country song about your pickup truck and a red Solo cup? Is it a dance song, like dance music? Is it worship, like what the band leads us in on Sunday mornings? Is it punk rock, like there's some anger in your song? Those are the questions you might ask when I tell you you've got a song in you. And the fact is, you might have many songs. A song about your past, another one about your future. But one song that I know you have, we know you have, according to the Bible, when God begins doing any kind of work in your life, you have a song of joy. A new song, a different song, a song of joy. So, you are a songwriter. You've got a unique song to you, a song, but I got one more question for you this morning. Is it possible for someone to steal that song from you? Can your song be stolen? I would suggest to you today that for many of us in this room, when we talk about a song of joy that God has put in you, that song has gone missing. It's like something stepped into our lives when we weren't looking and stole the song away. And we're going to look at that today. I want to show you this, a psalm about a song gone missing from someone, Psalm 137. But before we look at it together, let's just talk about this idea for a second. How do you know when your song has been stolen? Some of you, right away, when I suggested that happens, you perked up and you thought, oh, I think that's me. I feel like a part of me that once was there is missing, and you are self-aware enough, you can trace it back to an experience you had or a person or something happening in your life that took it away, and things have not been the same since. But others of you, maybe you're not so sure. So let me tell you how you know. It can happen in a phone call. It can happen when you open up an email. You know it happened when you find it hard to smile, when you wake up cranky and that feeling does not go away, when you don't have fun anymore, when you have to keep yourself so busy so that you're not preoccupied with what's missing, when you're around tons of people but you somehow still feel lonely. It is when you lose your sense of home. I'm not talking about happiness or everything always going right. I'm saying when you've lost your joy. When you have lost your joy, this is how you know your song has been stolen. This is what it feels like when you lose the thing that we're talking about today. And if you're someone who's feeling a little bit like some of that joy has been lost, or maybe a whole lot of it has been lost, then this psalm we're going to look at is for you. Let's get into it today by reading it together. We'll put it up on the screens, and I'll just tell you before we read it, this is a dark psalm. I've not heard many sermons preached out of this psalm. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've heard no sermons preached out of this psalm, and there's a reason, because the final verse of this psalm is rough. And we will not avoid the very tough final verse of this psalm. We're going to talk about it today, but I just want to ask you, hang with me, because I think sometimes the reason pastors don't preach this psalm is they're afraid that when you get to the last verse, you will get up and walk out. So just hang with me, and we'll make sense of it as we get to it, all right? So now that I've made this way more dramatic than it needs to be, Psalm 137, take a look. By the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. There on the poplars, we hung our harps. For there our captors asked us for our songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, sing us one of the songs of Zion. Well, how can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a foreign land? If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you, if I do not consider Jerusalem my highest joy. Remember, Lord, what the Edomites did on the day Jerusalem fell? Tear it down, they cried. Tear it down to its foundations. Daughter Babylon, doomed to destruction. Happy is the one who repays you according to what you have done to us. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. Yikes. We'll talk about that. But first, let's talk about verse 1. It says, by the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. I think it's important to tell you the story here of what has gone on, the backstory. This psalm is written in past tense. It's somebody who's looking back to an earlier point in their life, and they're looking back at a time when God's people were all in exile. The story is that God's people had been captured. There had been a war with the Babylonians. Their holy city, Jerusalem, destroyed, including their temple, everything that their lives revolved around. Many people were killed in this war. And those who had survived were taken hostage and moved to Babylon. Essentially, they became POWs, prisoners of war, and they were moved to a new place very far from home. This remnant of people who survived the destruction would be taken to Babylon, where they would be prisoners for 70 years. Not 6 months till the war was over. Not 10 years till Chuck Norris could come in and rescue them. That's a little movie reference for you children of the 80s like me. But 70 years as POWs. 70. Now, one thing you've got to know to understand this psalm is that in their case, God lets this happen. I'm sure you've talked before about whether or not God causes bad things to happen to people. I tend to believe there's a lot of reasons bad things happen, and typically I think it's not always fair to blame God, blame me, blame you, blame Satan, but God. But this time in this history with these people, God knew this was going to happen, and he let it happen. Why? Well, his people had been incredibly disobedient. They've turned against him, and so he's allowed this for them. And he even tells them, this is going to happen. He says, you're going to get captured, and everything we've built together is going to be destroyed, and I'm not going to be there for you this time. But then he says this. This just shows how loving and forgiving he is. At the end of 70 years, I'm going to come rescue you. You're going to get to come back, and we will rebuild Jerusalem and start again. So, what we're reading right now in Psalm 137 is from a person who has gotten to go back home. Because remember, past tense, the 70 years are up, he's home, but he's remembering what it was like to be a POW. It's like he's writing the song he would have written. Could he have written a song back then? In that very first line, verse 1, he says, by the rivers of Babylon we sat and we wept when we remembered Zion. Zion's a reference to Jerusalem. And what he's saying here is we were homesick. We sat and we wept when we thought about where we could not be, the place where we grew up, lived, and worshiped our God. Now, I don't know about you, but I read that line and I get this picture of a beautiful river, the rivers of Babylon. That sounds so wonderful, doesn't it? And I think about just this relaxing life, sitting under a tree, ukulele in my hands, maybe lying in a hammock. But remember, these are prisoners of war. Here, let me give you a little bit of geography. Jerusalem was in a hilly, kind of mountainous area. I mean, it's in the middle of these mountains. It nestles in the middle, but it's gorgeous scenery, and the land is blessed with springs, and it's got even forests in it. This is what they're remembering. But where are they? Where are they? Babylon, which is what we now know of in our modern world as Iraq. It was a flat land, a plain, not mountains like their home, but plains with two main rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. But in the summer, it was hot and dry. It was like desert. Again, very different than home. Now, here's why this matters. When he says, I sat by the river and cried, it's unlikely that this is a leisurely, relaxed sit out by the swimming hole. See, Babylon had a series of canals that worked off these rivers that were able to irrigate and water out of these canals. And the canals ran through the fields and workplaces where people like this writer slaved away all day long. And in fact, some believe that the Jews were forced to help dig those canals, and that this psalm is written by a person who is sitting by a canal that he has been digging. And so, here, this is not a guy with toes in the water, butt in the sand, not a worry in the world, cold beer in his hand. Got to be a country song, right? This is a guy who's been working with his fellow prisoners. Somehow their captors give them a break for a few minutes, and he's sitting next to a canal that he has been digging, and he is missing life back home. A very different picture than the glorious sounding rivers of Babylon. Verse 2, there on the poplars we hung our harps. For there our captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, sing us one of the songs of Zion. Okay, real quick. This verse gives us a clue as to who this person is. Verse 2 says, we hung our harps. Who would have had harps? Harps, back in Jerusalem, the people who always had harps would have been the temple musicians. They were people whose job it was to play music, songs of praise and joy to God in the temple every day. And now they are in captivity in Babylon, and here's what he says. We hung up our harps. We don't play music anymore. It's the same thing an ice skater says when they say, I hung up my skates, or a boxer might say, I hung up my gloves. They hung up their harps. Now that they are prisoners, they sing no more. They make music no more. Verse 3 says, we hung up our harps, but it didn't matter because our captors asked us for songs anyway. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. See, their captors knew that these were temple musicians, and they said, entertain us. Do that thing you guys do that make everybody so happy. Cheer up. You're on a break from digging. Sing some songs of joy. Sing one of the songs of Zion. Now, just so you get this, we don't know if that's sincere, that they wish that these temple musicians would cheer up a bit, because maybe they'll work harder if they're happy. Or maybe they're asking because they think their music sounds funny. Or these lyrics about their God and how great he is are ridiculous now that these people have been captured. They're taunting them by asking them to sing these songs. Whatever it is driving the iron deeper, right? It is painful that they're being demanded to sing the songs of joy so far away from their home. So look at what they say, verse 4. How can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a foreign land? They say, we can't sing, especially the songs you're asking us to sing, because our song is missing. We've hung up our harps. Something has stolen our song. Now, I just want to hang in this for a second, because if you're here today and you've lost some joy, I want you to see the very first thing they do in this moment where they've been asked to sing, these temple musicians who used to do this every day, they acknowledge how hard it is to sing. They don't get their harps down and make music. They admit that they are not in the mood for singing, that their song is missing. Okay, this is counterintuitive, because do you know what we do when our joy is stolen? Some of us, we fake it. We sugarcoat it. We pretend. We even have a saying for this: fake it till you make it, right? We're not honest and real about the hurts and the pain and the thing that is missing. And I think for God to give us our song back, I think one of the things we have to do, we've got to be honest about our feelings, opening up our heart, but transparent about our emotions. We've got to be honest about our frustrations. That's what's coming out in this psalm that he's writing. Another is our fears. Like when we admit our fears and we share them and we verbalize them, they lose their power, some of them. But maybe the most significant thing we've got to be honest about, and this is the toughest one, it's our faults and our failures. And when this psalmist writes, how can we sing in a foreign land? That is a confession. I put myself far away from home with my actions, and my guilt that I feel over that has taken away my joy. Okay, this is really important. I want to make sure we don't miss this. Remember what I told you. God's people were in exile because of choices they made. And part of what they're doing when they refuse to sing these songs of joy, they're refusing to sing songs that they feel like they don't deserve to sing anymore. Let me stop there. Just because you're in captivity, that doesn't take away your song. The psalmist didn't lose his song, hang up his harp, because he was in exile and he couldn't live free anymore. He hung it up because he felt tremendous guilt over what he had done, who he had been, him and his whole nation. And here is what this means. Guess who the person is that steals your song? Guess who's got all the power to do that? It's you. Later in the New Testament, we read of this time that the Apostle Paul and Silas are put in prison for preaching about Jesus to people. And they get put in the stocks and the prison doors are shut. And we read that Paul and Silas start singing hymns and songs of joy. And the prisoners hear this and they keep singing. And all of a sudden, an earthquake comes and opens up the jail door and frees them from their chains. And they can go free, but they don't. They stay and they tell their jailer about Jesus, and he and his whole family become believers. But what I want you to know, jail, prison, captivity, those are not the things that steal your joy. It's not the thing that takes away your song. Think of all the old spirituals written by slaves during American slavery, people captive to their owners. Your song does not get stolen by somebody else, no matter how involved in persecuting you they may be. Usually, our song gets stolen because of guilt and shame we feel over our part in sin. And this is huge. If you're not experiencing joy like you once were, is it possible that some of that is coming out of some feelings you have about some things you've done or been doing, are doing, that have made you feel less than pure? Now, that's all of us. All of us. Who doesn't have faults and failures? But can I tell you the reason that we can have joy as a room full of imperfect sinners? It's because we confess those things to God, and He is faithful and just to forgive us. And we confess to others when we've wronged them. And when we do that, joy comes out of the forgiveness we receive, because the darkness and the pressure and the guilt that comes with sin is released. Jesus takes that away. If your joy is missing and your song has been stolen, would you own up to it? Would you be honest about that? Honest with yourself? Honest with somebody else? And would you be willing to look and see if there's something going on in your life that has been stealing it away? I have conversations. One of the things we do at Wellspring is we meet with people and listen as they talk about what's going on with them and God. But I feel like I have conversations every single week, multiple times a week, with people who are in torment and feel like they've lost their song and they can't figure out why their joy is missing and their life feels ugly and they're dissatisfied. And as we talk and I ask them to explain what's going on, inevitably, they get very honest and sometimes walk me through a pretty significant area of sin they've been participating in for what could often be a very long time. And usually I say, don't you think that part of why it feels like life is such a struggle right now is that? And so often people say to me, no, it's work. It's my husband. It's my parents. If those things were fixed, I'd get my song back. And I say in so many words, the first step in getting your song back is you being honest about what you've done to take it away. Because your captors can't steal your song. Those people did not take it from you. Only you and your guilt and your shame that goes unresolved, unconfessed, undisclosed. Only you can steal the joy from you. All right, let's keep going. Verse 5. If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I don't remember you, if I don't consider Jerusalem my highest joy. May my right hand forget its skill. That means, may I no longer be able to play my harp. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth. That means, may I no longer be able to sing this song. Okay, what's the reason those things should happen? If I forget Jerusalem, if I do not remember where I came from, if I don't consider Jerusalem my highest joy. All right, let's talk about this. I'm from Chicago. And I love talking about Chicago. My friends always tell me, stop talking about Chicago, but I can't help it because I think Chicago and the surrounding area is one of the greatest places in the whole world. But I am under no false impressions that it's great because it's actually great. I mean, it is great, but it's great to me because I'm from there. When I go back to Chicago, you know what I don't do? Any of the things that you would do if you went to go visit Chicago that you think would make Chicago great. Like I don't go to the top of the Sears Tower like every Chicago visitor should, or the Hancock Building. I don't typically go down to Lake Michigan or shop at what we call the Magnificent Mile on Michigan Avenue. I don't go to Wrigley Field and catch a Cubs game. You know what I do? I drive by my old house that I grew up in. And I go for a walk in a forest that I used to go walk in. And I go visit a church that was life-changing for me. And I eat at a boatload of restaurants that are not in anybody's best restaurant guide but my own personal one, because that's what you do when you go home. That's what you do. What do you do when you remember home? You are not remembering necessarily the geography. You remember how home made you. You're remembering who you used to be. Now, I know for everybody, that's not always the greatest thing to remember. You don't like who you used to be. I get it. You don't like the people you grew up with. I get it. The last thing you want to do is remember home. You're happy to be out of that place. I get it. Home is not always the greatest thing for everyone to remember, but for this songwriter, home, Jerusalem, was good. Home, Jerusalem, was where he experienced God. When he says, if I forget you, Jerusalem, he's saying, if I forget the way that God met me and worked in me, may I no longer be able to play my harp. May I no longer be able to sing. A few weeks ago, a friend of mine was leading us in a meeting, and she led us through a devotional, and she walked us through this passage in John where Jesus says, I'm the vine, you're the branches. Some of you may be familiar with it. And verse 10 jumped out at me in a new way. I want to read it to you from the Message paraphrase of Jesus' words. Here's what it says. If you keep my commands, you'll remain intimately at home in my love. That's what I've done. Kept my Father's commands and made myself at home in his love. And I've told you these things for a purpose, that my joy might be your joy, and your joy wholly mature. Jesus uses the imagery of home here, and he says, you will not feel home if you don't keep God's commands. When you do, you will be at home in his love. We've already talked about that, how sin keeps us from this. But then he goes on to say, the sense of home leads to joy. Okay, when the psalmist is remembering Jerusalem, it's like the joy comes back. When he remembers who God is and what it means to be at home in him. But if I forget that, if I forget God and what he's done in my life, then I don't have anything left to sing. And if I can just apply this to us, if you're missing your joy, and a lot of that's possibly stemming from stuff in your life that you've let go unconfessed, unresolved, recognize that joy is not about where you are right now, your location. It's about where you've been and who you're with. Remember, God, that joy comes in him. Joy is not dependent on your location, your circumstance today. It is dependent on what God has done for you in the past and the fact that he is with you right now. Okay, let's keep reading the final part, the final verse here, verse 7. Remember, Lord, what the Edomites did on the day Jerusalem fell. Tear it down, they cried. Tear it down to its foundations. Daughter Babylon, doomed to destruction, happy is the one who repays you according to what you have done to us. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. Now, this is the tough part I mentioned at the beginning, and I want to explain what this is and where this comes from. Look at the top of that. The songwriter says, I cannot forget what they did to us when they came and they captured us. They tore down our city. They tore down our homes, down to the foundations. They killed all of our loved ones. And so he says in verse 8, you realize, Babylon, that you are doomed to destruction. God already told us 70 years and we're out. Don't think you'll get away with this. Do not think that our capture is the end of the story. Don't think that I'll be sitting by this canal slaving away for you with my harp hung up forever. Happy is the one who repays you according to what you have done to us. Now let me stop right there. What did their oppressors do? What had been done to them? Because he's saying, I can't wait to see somebody do to you what you did to me. Well, he gives an example. Happy is the one who repays what you did to us, who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. Whoa. So you mean to tell me that this is what happened to this songwriter before he was captured, before he became a prisoner of war? That is exactly right. He's not dreaming of new innovative ways to get back at Babylon. He is referencing what they did to him and his family and his people. And he's calling for revenge. Now, these words and this sentiment is not pretty, and I don't condone his request for vengeance, and I don't think Jesus would either. But this is the punk rock part of his song. He has been a POW, and he says, I am so angry, and I hope somebody does to you what you did to me. Now, sometimes Scripture is not a prescription. Just because somebody says something in the Bible, even does something, doesn't mean that you're supposed to go do it, or even that God approved of it at the time that the person in the Bible did it or said it. But what I love about the Psalms is they're uncensored. God does not deliver us this song in a sanitized, whitewashed, family-friendly version. He gives us the full, explicit lyrics version. It should have a parental advisory on it. And there's a reason God does that. There's a reason, because he wants us to see that even in this kind of exile, when your song is missing, there is hope for the future, that God will come in and save the day. This song does not end with a guy who's in captivity, away from home, and away from God forever. It ends with a lyric of hope and restoration. And I want to encourage you who sit here today, maybe feeling like your joy has been lost and things are not what they once were, and you're just feeling very far from this kind of home with God, home living in his love. I just want to encourage you in the place you are right now. Remember, there is hope for the future. Sometimes the best songs are songs about the future and God saving the day. Kate is going to come back out here and close this time in our service, this part of our service. But before she does that, I want to just ask you to bow your heads with me. Would you do that? I just want to lead us in a moment of prayer, because maybe there's been something that has been going on in your life that has stolen your song. And this morning, you are recognizing, when I say that, I mean you're being self-aware enough, humble enough to notice that it's you. That there's no one powerful enough to take that away but you. And we'll pray in a moment that you get it back. But before we do, we know that it begins with confession. And so will you just take a moment and in prayer, just some space with you and God, would you maybe own up to whatever it is that is causing you that guilt and shame and would steal your joy? I'm going to give you a moment to do that before we continue. And then, would you acknowledge with me that God is your home? That you can rest and abide in Him, that He is the source of joy. It's not your circumstance that brings you joy. It's not your location in this life. Joy doesn't come because everything is going great. The world is always wonderful. Joy comes from remembering what it is to be at home in His love. And would you take a moment right now and tell Him that you want that? That wherever your current circumstance finds you, you want to be at home in Him.